Oh,
There's a lot of private messages too.
There's a lot of questions. So someone's saying that the three principles have been really beautiful and helpful. However, part of my journey was experiencing all kinds of pains which I felt like they were stuck in my body. And one by one, they were exposed and released, which led me to follow Kundalini and energetic awakening stuff. I kept wondering why there is so little talk of this in the principles community. This talk has been very helpful, and I will be looking forward towards Wholality, not just for myself, but as a teacher too. Beautiful, thank you. Another person, I'm asking, as it seems you're talking about trauma perhaps being stored in the body. Not sure if I'm misunderstood.
Yeah, there's synapses, there's neural synapses that fire, and sometimes they are triggered constantly via sounds, via smell, and this is not cognitive sounds. This is it bypasses the brain. It's all via neuroception. Neuroception is your nervous system surveillance system. It's what keeps you alive. So yes, and you'll see that in when you have a backache or when you have a neck ache or there's certain receptors specific to your unique experience that fire. And again, this is neuroceptically received, information received, changes the physiology, and the physiology sends messages to the brain. So that's why perception isn't a word that Dr. Stephen Porges doesn't agree with, because there's an intentionality. When you say thought, there's an intentionality. When you say perception, there's an intentionality. This, like, you should understand where your experience comes from. It's all in your head. But that's not the case. It's the body first. 80% of the messages get sent up. So I hope that was helpful.
Yeah. We've had another... Sorry, we're running through these obviously pretty quickly, because I know it's kind of late for you guys in Europe. Another person is saying that, to me, your description of whole perception doesn't differ from the 3P explanation of thought with a capital T.
And I just answered that. It's.
Oh, okay.
That's why Rudy said perception, but it's actually neuroception. It's from the neck down. Your body is receiving messages. Even if there is no present danger, your body is tuned in to a life-saving detection of threat. It's heroically saving your life, and it's heroically attempting to save your life, even when there isn't a present danger there. It gets kind of, and I say stuck, not broken. Sometimes the cycles fire and that's where trauma is. The cycles in your body tend to fire. They tend to be hyper tuned into danger, and that creates difficulties. You have a very you have a lot of behavior, a lot of quick reactions, and then we judge ourselves for those quick reactions. But you're not doing anything wrong.
I want to talk to that question quickly. So first thing is, Wholality isn't taught like the three principles. I want to make that very clear. So Wholality doesn't teach like that, and the three principles doesn't include the information or the research of the body that we're talking about in how they teach people. And it doesn't include people's automatic reactions, bodily reactions outside of cognition, and it doesn't talk about the energetic nature, the plasma-like beings, our ability to co-create with the universe, because we're all entangled. It doesn't really talk about that. So I'm not bashing the three principles. I'm just saying that the three principles is narrower from my perspective than what we're currently teaching, and I think is a lot narrower than Sydney Banks's original message. The teaching now is much narrower than his original insight and message. I don't care if I get in trouble for this.
I have my doctor friends on here. I'm sorry. Thank you for showing up.
Well, okay, to be completely transparent with you, being a prolific three principles teacher, I was really trying to be respectful to the understanding for many years. But what I found is that I have to speak out and I have to be authentic, because by zipping my mouth, I am closing my heart off.
Yeah. You're not honoring your unique truth.
Another question. When our experience is 100% based on our perception but not 100% on our thoughts, can we be triggered by outside energies, other people's presence? Can they provoke a bodily reaction in us?
I need to correct that. It's 100%. The whole reason the word neuroception was created, coined, is because the term perception is too cognitive based. It's too thought processy.
Too narrow.
Yes. So neuroception, and absolutely, we have neuroreceptors all over our body, and they're portals. They're portals that we can receive cues of safety, but they're also portals of detection. So absolutely, there is the outside world, and then there is our intervening variable, unique to us. That is our body. That is our whole body. And we're receiving the information, and our body's response to it is unique to us. So yes, absolutely. Energy is information.
So any outside circumstance, whether it's a physical threat or whether it's a fast or slow moving energy that you can't physically see, because places, people and situations, it's all an energetic interaction, your body is going to feel that energy, okay, and it's then going to create a perception, a whole perception of that energy. So when you look at it really absolutely, it's still 100% perceptual. Something out in the world doesn't make you feel like you feel. You feel like you feel because of your whole perception. But yes, when we had our facilitator retreat out here, it's bizarre, but there's this, I call it a manual, and it's literally just this road with a couple of palm trees, very, very normal. But when I walked up there with my son Seth, I felt this big rush of high vibrational energy, and I thought, wow, this is really cool. So we took our students there, and they walked into it, and they felt an increase in vibrational energy. Now, some students could feel it, others couldn't. Okay, so it is still an inside job, but what we're saying is, the inside-out nature is much broader than just cognition. It's an energetic wholeception.
That's why when you say the word thought, immediately people begin to judge themselves, because there's an intentionality behind that. Even the word perception, we use that, but that's not broad enough, soft enough.
So I hope that kind of makes sense. With this understanding, how can I help people the best? With the three principles, I have tried to help people see that the whole experience comes from thought. But I can see it, but I could not see it myself. I always had the impression that I also had emotions before the thoughts come, and I try to explain it in such a way that thinking is so fast and automated that I cannot perceive it. Yeah, that's beautiful.
That's what Anthony Damasio, with his Somatic Marker theory, proved. It was what William James was trying to tell us, that story follows your inner physiological state. The way the body works is the emotion. So we have our neuroception, the energy comes in, shifts our physiology, sends information, so we get bodily feeling states, sends information to the feeling centers of the brain, and then a thought refines it, it appraises it, it narrates it. Thought has a clear language, so you see that, but the subtle messages of the body are soft, but so very important. Part of the somatic marker theory, I didn't know if I explained it, but he had many individuals that had lesions on their brain, on the feeling centers of their brain, They could not produce a cognitive thought because it's necessary for the information to pass by the feeling centers. So that's over and above the physiology. It's 80% bottom up. It's bottom up, top down.
Even to the degree, again, HeartMath research that we'll put a link to this. There's this whole journal from HeartMath that you can actually download and look at, and we'll put that link under the recording. They measured the heart rate variability of an owner and her horse, and they're both kind of, all over the place. And then when the owner sat in the same room as a horse and consciously focused on feelings of love and appreciation for the horse, guess what? Their heart rate variability matched. Same with the mother and baby. It's a very common fact that when the mother's physically away from the baby, their heart rate variability is different. The mother comes, holds the baby, looks at the baby, then the heart rate variability matches. There's this energetic entanglement. And again, I want to just be clear, okay, you can have a traumatic thought or a loving thought and then feel that, okay?
Yeah.
You absolutely can. If I got everyone here to think of the most terrible experience in their life, you're going to start feeling what you're thinking.
Because you have neural grooves
absolutely.
there. Yes.
So we're saying that is partly true, but also but 80% of our experiences coming from our body up, and often our thoughts are just narrating our inner state, not creating it.
Right.
I want to say that one more time. A lot of the time, our thoughts are narrating, telling us what our inner state is doing, rather than creating the inner state.
William James, in some of his writings, said, well, thoughts don't create feelings. They can ignite an already present neurological or physiological state that's already there within the body. And because when my son was taken, so when I'm feeling low or when I'm naturally and inevitably contracting, I sometimes worry that they're going to come take him again. So yes, but that is already present. I already have an embodied neuroreceptors there ready and waiting.
Okay, just going through. Is the distinction that you are pointing to personal thought as opposed to universal thought? I resonate with what you are saying, and how I articulate this part to clients is I let them know that they are the expert of their experience. I see universal thought as thought. I don't see, or as you have put it, feeling thought through the body. I have no idea what it is telling me. I just feel the effects. I see new parts of it most days, holding me in patterns. Is that what you are saying, or is there something that I'm missing? I'm not 100%
I didn't quite understand the question. I'm so sorry, Al.
That. So I'm going to try and answer that, but I'm not 100%. I don't 100% understand. What I will say is, you've got the fact of the three principles: mind, thought, and consciousness. The fact that we think, the fact that we're alive, the fact that we're connected to all things. I agree. Okay. Then you've got the teaching of that. The teaching isn't that. The teaching is a human interpretation of that. I don't have a problem with the principles. I'm just not too keen on the teaching of that. So when we talk about thought, we have thoughts that we're aware of, but really it's one whole energetic interaction that can arise within cognition. It can arise within the bodily sensations. And the reason we don't teach thought in the big T as thought as the information of the universe is people get confused, because as soon as you say thought, people think cognition. Mm-hmm. So we don't use that word because of that.
And it alienates the body. There's so many people that have come to me and they are bypassing physical information bypassing information that the body is screaming at them?
Well, often the three principles, I'm going to three principles bash, I don't mean to. Okay, the way I was taught, it's not that encouraging of you going within and communing with your own hurts. It's not that encouraging for you to follow a meditation practice. I mean, some three principles teachers are very open-minded and encourage people. I've never met one of them, but I'm sure that they're out there. With Wholality, we're not telling you what to do. We're encouraging you to do what is right for you.
Right.
If anyone tells you to do or not do something, run away. You have to follow your own wisdom. What is good for you? What is right for you? Because I stopped meditating after Roger Mills was like, well, you know, if you get the principles, you don't need this. And I just wish I never stopped it. But anyway, okay, how can I feel free from fearful thoughts after a year of cancer treatment and stop blaming myself for getting it in the first place, cancer, and affecting my family and friends? The treatment was so harsh, but in my darkest moments, I found some beautiful experiences and the meaning of who I am, which was love. Oh, beautiful. But it continues to be hard in recovery, and my body still has the anxiety ever present and a lack of energy. I want to give myself permission to be joyful. Oh, beautiful.
Well, you give yourself permission to be human.
Yeah.
And we all experience life in our own unique ways. And I'm so sorry. I know what it was like to be riddled with all of these conditions, that I had so many specialists. It wasn't your fault. There's no intentionality there. And that's one thing that helped me, that the information, your body reacts how it reacts, and the information is sent upwards. And so blaming yourself for an illness, and you're not the first person that has come believing that. I could go so deep into this, but we don't have time.
Give yourself permission to be human. We will naturally ebb and flow, wave, and sometimes we need to lean on people. Other times people lean on us. This is the impermanence, the permanent impermanence of life. But again, we could do a whole webinar on that one.
I want to correct something, and I apologize to my doctor friends that are here. Well, they've heard it before. The HPA axis, the hypothalamus pituitary adrenal axis. The A in HPA begins in the body, begins via the neuroreceptors. The adrenals sit right here on the top of your kidneys, and as soon as your body, your nervous system senses something, they give a surge of corticolines. They give a surge of adrenaline. You need that. It gets stored in your muscles. If you don't release it, like animals shake, or in the jungle we used to run away from the lion, it gets stored in your body. So I've heard before that it's your thinking that triggers your HPA axis. It starts long before that. Your thinking narrates it.
If you imagine, okay, you've got a compost in the kitchen. I've got a little glass jar that I put a lid on, but when you've got compost in there and the lid isn't on, you would naturally get flies buzzing around the compost. Saying it's just your thinking is trying to get rid of the flies. Yes, there are flies there, but what's deeper? Why is the thought that you're having originating? What's its origination? It's commentating your inner state, your body, your feeling. Your thoughts are giving you information about what's going on within you. So you can whack the flies away, but they're going to keep circling around until you go deeper. And in fact, that's what you've done with all of your trauma clients. Mm-hmm. And when they stop judging themselves because they're thinking the thinking, when they stop judging themselves that they should be getting where their experience is coming from, and communed with the compost, so to speak, the thoughts arising, the anxiety, the fear, the self-loathing didn't really originate. They didn't appear as much because you're looking before. Mm-hmm. In fact, I'm going to read this out. After 30 years of wrestling with the principles, my body is still screaming at me. I'm finding even this little glimpse, what you have said so far today, so refreshing, a relief, still holding trauma, still on high alert. Many 3P folks have actually yelled at me for not getting it.
Yeah, I've seen that. And I've seen the medical community too. Sorry, I keep bashing the medical community. But I've seen that. And again, this is what William James, he went into himself, and he saw the physiology. He saw that birthing, the feeling, and then refined by a thought. He saw that, he shared that, but he was ridiculed. 100 years later, it's being proved. And current day, it's finally being taught. I think Maryland University and Stanford, they're having courses on it now. Our hopes is to integrate this back in to psychology, integrate it. We're one whole system. We're one whole system with all these unique features. Beautiful, beautiful features that commune and entangle with one another.
So I'm leaving any names out, but thank you so much for writing that. And I'm sorry that 3P folks, whoever they are, shouting at you saying you're not getting it. But often, if you're not happy, you're not getting it.
Right.
If you're having a bad experience or difficult things, you're not getting it. Not all teachers, but many. And pardon my French, tell them to fuck off. Okay, well, I'm being a bit aggressive here, but you're human, you will ebb and flow. You're in a body, you're gonna have neural grooves, automatic reactions, and your body will keep screaming at you until you listen to it and commune with it. Mm. And again, we do this on the facilitator training, we do this with support over a time duration. This is a very short webinar. So if you've got things within you, we wouldn't recommend that you jump into it right now. There has to be a whole support system behind doing all of it. We're just kind of putting this out there very briefly, but we don't have time to go into it. We're probably going to have to miss some questions out, but I'll just read a few. I see the body as an indicator of whether you're following your true nature, inner wisdom, feels good or neutral or not, tension, stress. Can you please speak to this with your understanding?
Absolutely. The only thing true about true nature is nature, and nature cycles. There is an ebb and a flow. There is an expansion and a contraction, just in the waves. There is the waves moving to and fro. Not only that, but there's another cycle there, the high tide and low tide. Everything cycles. We aren't part of nature. We are nature in human form, and as nature, we cycle. Our last webinar spoke to that. It spoke to that. There's a line, everybody calls it the line of discontentment. When we seek this good feeling and call it good, and we try to alienate this bad feeling because it's bad, we are doing ourselves a disservice. But in that resistance, we're bottling up so much more in our body. We are going to contract. We are going to expand. In fact, if there was all of the waves, this webinar is like 45 minutes longer than it's supposed to be.
No.
If all of the waves in a light source were going the same direction, all in the same vibration, all in uniform, all in alignment, there'd be no experience. Zero. None at all. It needs the interference pattern for experience. We need to have this grittiness. We need to have the dynamics of duality, the dynamics of polarity for experience. That was such a gift when I saw that, because I was alienating. You can see it's I'm very passionate. I was alienating that in myself, and then all of these comorbidities, these diagnosis, if you will, and my body began to arise. And that's why I have all these good friends that are doctors and tried to help me. But there was we are nature. And as nature, we ebb and flow. And as nature, we cycle.
So I said this is going to be controversial. Our true nature, okay, we don't use the word, we use whole nature. We will ebb and flow. In fact, the last webinar, we spoke about this for like 30 minutes. So it'll be up in the members area. So watch that because we don't have time to go into it, okay? But what can happen is if you see feeling good as right and feeling bad as wrong, okay?
Or getting it and a not getting it.
True self, true nature, false nature, in alignment, out of alignment, all these mind dualities. Now that your true nature isn't up here. This is your whole nature. We wholly ebb and flow because we are nature and nature moves. So with those, in answer, long-winded answer to the question, when you ignore, I don't mean identify with, but when you stop ignoring what all of your perception is telling you, okay,
all of your human experience,
you will bypass, like Julian eloquently said in his video, you will bypass information trying to tell you something, okay? With the wholeness, you'd stop seeing this as your true nature and right. You stop seeing right and wrong in experience, and you start embracing all your whole, hence why we call the book Wholality, your whole nature. You commune with all of you, and that is why in those videos every single person said unconditional freedom. This is conditional freedom up there. Unconditional is the whole of it.
That's the heart. Yeah. Go
Yeah, there's
well,
we've missed loads of messages. We haven't got time. I see that we ebb and flow. I can feel my body, mood, and interest cycle with the moon. We are nature.
Yeah.
I see not duality, but rather a whole nature. Okay, so we haven't answered all your questions, but this webinar's like 40 minutes longer than we hoped.
If you haven't, sign up. We have an app. We have a Wholality app, and sign up so you can have the members. You can have this delivered to you in the members area.
I've put the links in again, and I will post the links out when I do the next webinar to the webinar, next email to the webinar subscribers. But we're curious. We spend 6 solid months with people, daily embodiment videos, going deeper and deeper into aspects of our whole nature of being. This is like a caffeine hit of like a 30-minute presentation.
Yeah. And then over and above that, our graduates for 2022 are going on to trauma course, trauma through the eyes of Wholality.
How to work with people who had trauma and help them. So
if anybody tells you that they can teach you about trauma in one day or one weekend, run the other way. It's very layered, and it's very nuanced. And it's important to understand that it's unique to each and every one of you.
We want to get feedback before you go. Is this making sense, or do you disagree? We're completely fine if you disagree. Just put something. If all of you put something in the chat, thumbs up, thumbs down, and I agree, I don't disagree, or this is helpful, whatever it is. This is new for us. We're used to spending 6 months with students. We've never done this in such a short space of time. And this is only part of Wholality. This is just like a part of a part, not the whole of it by any stretch of the imagination. I agree with everything you're saying. It makes perfect sense. Thumbs up. Totally makes sense. Love it. Wow. It really has. Can't wait for tomorrow to start. Oh yeah, we're doing a thing tomorrow. It totally makes sense. Thank you, reading Jules. Makes sense. What a relief. Yes, I am greatly intrigued and I'm considering taking the course. Beautiful. Love it. Thank you. It makes sense. Wonderful information. I agree partly. Beautiful. Thanks. And Thomas, I agree that I don't find the 3 Ps are in opposition with new direction. Beautiful. Thanks, Thomas. Thumbs up. Makes sense. Okay, well, actually, that's pretty good. For like a 30-minuter, a lot more people get what we're talking about and have experienced what we're talking about than I hoped was possible. This is so helpful. Marjorie, thank you, Marjorie. This is so helpful for being diagnosed with bipolar, and my family passed away and had no children, and my father's 92, and I now feel I can feel my feelings my body is sending me.
Marjorie, we love you, Marjorie.
Beautiful. Thank you, Marjorie. Yeah. Judy describes my experience. Beautiful.
Obvious. Yeah, it's like it's so obvious when you, yeah. And my heart goes out to William James. What a beautiful man.
Who knew this 120 years ago?
He was ridiculed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, thank you guys for being with us. We appreciate it. It's gone on longer, but so it is. Thank you for your comments. Click the links. Our next webinar is on the 4th of April, the #1 secret to creating impact as a coach. So if you work with people, whether you're a coach, facilitator, therapist, or you just want to talk to your family members, there's something we want to share with you that really, really, really helps people clear the amnesia, go back to a home that they're already within, but consciously and in an embodiment. We're going to talk about that in the next webinar.
And if you're interested you want to send a Calendly link if they want to talk to us?
Yes. In the link here, facilitator coach training, you can, I'll separate that there.
The reason is because
you can talk to us about the facilitator training.
We want mentors. We want a team. I want to take this globally. I want to start a nonprofit. And that doesn't mean you're not going to get paid. But I want to help people. I want to help people that they can't afford it.
People like you used to be, who were in bed, couldn't get up, depressed, agoraphobic, like the whole 9 yards.
Right. Spiraling downward in housing and finding myself homeless, and my son taken and my daughter in a fatal car accident. But I'm so grateful for this experience. I'm so grateful for the whole experience and everything, because I can take this and share it and help people help others.
Yeah. Yes, so there's the link. If you want to chat to us about the facilitator training, click that link there. And again, I want to thank our students for allowing us to record them so you could watch that. And actually, after that webinar, we're doing one specifically about the facilitator training. And a lot of these guys, like Renee's here. Hello. Hi, Renee. Where you can literally ask them questions about, and Azra's here, and Julian was here, he's had to go.
Monica.
So anyway, a few of our students will be on that webinar and you can ask them questions about the training. Anyway.
We are way too sorry we took so much of your time.
So lots of love to you. Thank you so much for being here. The recording will be up shortly. And until then, embrace your humanness.
Right.
All of you.
And honor your unique truth, that unique intuitive essence that speaks to you. It's yours. We all have this unique path. Honor that. It isn't paint by numbers. Life isn't paint by numbers. Don't let anybody give you a template. You have your own blank canvas of infinite potential to paint on.
Okay, God bless you. Lots of love to you all. Mwah. We love you, and we'll see you on the next live webinar.